Greetings, everybody. Mike Wilkerson here for the Fangbanger Podcast True Blood Transfusion segment. This is our news and fan feedback video-only segment. Today we've got a ton of feedback. Today I'm with
David Crete, the host of the Fangbanger Podcast.
And we just got done reviewing episode 9.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. In fact, you ready to go?
Let's please.
No, we just got done reviewing that episode, which you can actually listen to right now, that audio podcast, by clicking the link right above us if you're at fangbangerpodcast.com or over at our Facebook presence over at facebook.com. Just type in Fangbanger Podcast up in the search function, and you'll find the Fangbanger Podcast on Facebook. David, we got a ton of feedback, so let's get straight to it.
Excellent.
The first piece of input we have is from a gentleman named Jason. Jason writes, "Hi, Mike. I've been really enjoying your podcast for the last few months, and I listen to them often when I'm out training for a marathon."
It's impressive.
Well, David's going to join you.
Yeah, probably
okay?
not.
Oh, all right. Well, hey, congratulations for training for a marathon. I know it's a pinnacle of physical training that neither of us will ever endure. And so it's great to see somebody training with us. It's great that you're listening to us. One question. I've hit your archive podcast during the podcast episodes. I can't and got them. I've gotten all of the podcasts, but you seem to have made several references during the other podcast episodes I couldn't quite find. To name, for example, the Indiana Jones series is one. I did hear at one point that there were Nolan Batman episodes as well. Is there some place I'm still missing? I see that you guys do a Dexter True Blood updates as well. Will you be doing movie updates as well as that, like the classics? Okay, we've got a couple of questions here. First, the Indiana Jones stuff is available. I have veiled it for various reasons, mostly because I'm ashamed of our fourth review of Indiana Jones, which I have not actually edited. But we do have the first, the second, and the third ones available for you, and I'll drop you a link to those. I think where we'll also put them is we'll put them on our website at twoguystalking.com/indie, and then you'll have links to all of them, including some really great detail from my lifelong friends that helped me review all of those films, including that sad piece of crap that was the fourth one, which I think we shall never talk about again. You also mentioned the Nolan Batman films. We have a huge special announcement coming early next year about those that I think everybody's going to find really, really intriguing. So make sure you stay tuned for those and look for some really great Nolan reviews from Two Guys Talking, both in current but then also in prospective review that should be really exciting. You also mentioned our Dexter and True Blood efforts. Dexter podcast is coming up. In fact, this week we're going to be talking a little bit about that later on here in the listing. Dexter is coming up in October, and then of course you have True Blood, which we're reviewing now and having a ton of fun with. So again, thanks for listening to all of that while you're training for a marathon. I am happy that Two Guys Talking is a part of what you're doing inside your life. Jason continues, "Thanks, I just want to make sure I'm getting my fix. By the way, a request, I would love to hear and maybe offer input on the original Die Hard, by far one of the best all-around intelligent action flicks we've ever seen. Thanks again, and we'll continue being a loyal fan, Jason."
Well, thanks, Jason.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Mike and I, with a push that Mike created earlier this year, the Nostalgia Engine, have been formulating a list of movies that we'd like to go back and review from the 70s and 80s mostly, and some in the 90s, that were really hallmarks of what inspired us, anyways, when we were younger.
Yeah, and Die Hard's definitely on the list. In fact, I think the first two Die Hards could easily be gone through. And Die Hard 2.
But maybe not 3.
No, I agree. And then the fourth one we're just going to skip.
Yeah, I think so.
We're going to skip that one. Again, Jason, thanks for writing in. On to Two Guys Talking news. We just briefly had talked about the Dexter Perspective podcast reviews. Well, they continue this week. We're continuing to power through the fourth season perspective reviews of Dexter. For those of you that are not Dexter fans, Dexter will be in its 6th season coming up here in October 2011. We have run through the entire season 5 live as they appeared with my co-host Brad Hogan-Miller inside of that series. And then we've gone back actually to season 4 to do that in perspective review because it was that great a season. You have not seen Dexter, I assume.
I've only seen the first 2 seasons of
First
Dexter.
2 seasons, okay. Well, if you guys haven't seen any of Dexter, I encourage you to catch up, Start with season 1 and continue on, power through the 5th season, and begin watching this next upcoming season because it looks stellar. The cast is huge. Everybody in it really has their acting game on. And of course, we know that everybody inside of Dexter already has their acting game on, as well as the writers. And so you would be very remiss if you did not watch and listen to our Dexter podcast. You can find it on Facebook over at facebook.com/Dexter Podcast, or you can go to twoguystalking.com and look for any of the Dexter banners and buttons, and you should be just fine. Some more fan feedback. These are some quick fire here. Mark writes, enjoy your True Blood podcast. Found you on iTunes. Katie writes, great listening to your podcast. It could be a bit longer though. Kind of like your feedback.
Ha.
Matthew J. writes, was episode 9 a bit light? Is it possible we just saw our first filler episode of the series?
I don't know. I thought 9 really kind
of
was firing on all cylinders. It did all the hallmarks of True Blood.
Yeah.
There was a couple of episodes back that I thought was maybe the first filler episode. Go back and listen to our previous episode podcast reviews and check out 7. Was it 7 or 6?
Yeah, go back to the Chronicle inside of our website at fangbangerpodcast.com. If you click on the True Blood Chronicle will take you all the way down to a quick reference section inside of that webpage where you can click and listen to all of the podcasts, but you also get to see who was our Merlot special for that. You then get to see the actual numbers that we used. And when you look for the lower numbers, my guess is that's where you're going to find...
That's probably the one that we thought was probably the closest thing to filler they've had.
I totally agree with that, although I don't think we actually called anything a filler episode.
Not yet, but we were close.
So that's where you'll find that. That's a great question, and I really appreciate your input. The reason I'm reading all of these off here, no, in fact, here, there's one more here. Fred writes, I've never seen an episode of True Blood, but because of the presentation you guys gave me inside your podcast, I will look into it. Great job. Nice rapport. Keep it up.
Well, thanks.
Fred, that's why we podcast. You have no idea what we're talking about when we talk about, let's go watch the TV show that has some great food in it. Oh, and by the way, look, vampires. And now because of our podcasting about it, you're interested in watching it.
Yeah.
That's why we podcast. Great input. And the reason that
so that brings you into the discussion that we have, which is essentially what this is at Two Guys Talking, the Fangbanger Podcast in particular, is the two of us discussing what we just seen.
Right.
And bringing you into the discussion creates a community, and that's sort of what we're about.
Right. And then soliciting input from the community and sharing that as well, which brings me to a reason why I have giant shotgun blast of feedback here. We've just read through 4 different feedback inputs from listeners. And what I want to emphasize to all of you is that I love reading. Great listening to your podcasts. But I'd love to listen to more. I'm not looking for a tome and I'm not looking for a book. But what we've read through inside this episode is a really great representation of what we look at just about every week. And just tell us what you think. Give us some feedback to either steer the direction of the show, but give us something a little bit more than great listening to your podcast, or I love your podcast, or hate you.
I actually kind of like hate you, though. That's, that's to the
because
point.
There's so much of that.
That's to the point.
Right. The gist is to send us feedback, but give us a little bit of feedback as well as the great job, or a lot of these are a real great sample of what we're looking for in different doses. And so bring it on. We love hearing about it. So we talked about why we have all the feedback together. We talked about writing effective feedback and True Blood news. Did you guys know that it's the 1-year anniversary for Sookie and Bill in True Life?
Oh, that's right. They got married
a year ago. It was a year ago this week. And we, from the Fangbanger Podcast, would like to just wish both of those actors a congratulations for staying married longer than I think everybody in Hollywood usually stays married. So congrats on a first year. We look forward to there being at least, another 6 months?
I would say at least 3 years.
3 years.
Sure, I'll give them 3 years.
Child or not child?
Oh, maybe no.
Maybe no child.
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, interesting. Anyway, happy anniversary, guys. Great to see that, and I'd love to see more of that inside of Hollywood. YouTube information. For those of you that are looking for more episodes of the True Blood Transfusion, remember you can go to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Two Guys Talking. That's the number 2, Guys Talking all together. And you can watch every episode that we've had of the True Blood Transfusion to date. some of you have watched more than others so far.
Yeah.
In fact, recently we got our first 2 dislikes on the YouTube channel.
We got dislikes?
We got dislikes. Unfortunately, we have no idea why. And so I think somebody was just tired or something. I don't know what happened. But remember, if you do dislike the show, that's fine. David wants to solicit negative feedback. So, hey, bring it on, whatever.
Absolutely.
But remember, tell us why.
Yeah, please.
That's like going, man, I hate this.
Click. Yeah.
What are we supposed to do with that? And again, David wants negative feedback. I don't know that I want negative feedback, but I desperately want, if you're going to give us negative feedback in particular, to tell us why.
Why? And I'm not asking for a bunch of flames, please. I don't need, an email box full of you guys suck. But a reason why, perhaps. Maybe it's my haircut. Maybe it's the tone in my voice.
Perhaps.
Maybe they don't like my Merlot special.
That's probably it.
I would like to know exactly why it is you don't care for it.
And I would as well, because knowing why allows us to take some different directions inside of the program, both this show and the Fangbanger the Fangbanger Podcast, which you can listen to by clicking the link right above us, by the way. I guess the bottom line is that, thanks to all of you that have taken the time to like the page and or dislike the video, that's fine. But remember to leave those dislikes is great. But how about some input rather than just the drive-by fruiting of a dislike every now and then? There has to be some reason in what you're doing. And again, we appreciate all of your feedbacks, both positive and negative, but there needs to be some flesh to it. If I were to throw a little mini tomato at you, would you really care? Why don't you give me a big juicy tomato if you're going to throw something at us so we can rectify something? Anyway, thanks so much for that. And we've actually come to the end of yet another True Blood Transfusion, where we're looking for feedback from you, the listeners of the Fangbanger Podcast. And remember, you can listen to the most recent episode by clicking the link right above us. And also remember that we're still looking for input via iTunes. Have you been on iTunes recently?
I have been on iTunes recently.
We still yet have only one dude that actually went in there. It was Knack1 that went in there and actually provided us with some feedback. And we're looking for your feedback inside of iTunes. Remember, you just go to iTunes, you type in True Blood Podcast, Fangbanger Podcast, Two Guys Talking. Any of those things will bring open a whole bunch of different icons of podcasts on the network. And then you just click on the one that's a picture of Suki with headphones on with the wires coming out into her neck.
Nice.
Isn't that nice?
I like that.
I do too.
Well
so,
done.
yeah, until next week, here on the Fangbanger Podcast True Blood Transfusion segment, where you, the fans, get the sound off via my dialogue. We'll see you next time.
Bye.